What's up, Vito? How you doing? Good morning, good morning, good morning. So good to have another day to serve and assist humanity. Mother Katie, can you tell I like what I do? Come on. Vito, can you tell I like what I do? I really do. I was praying about 2024 and some of the adjustments I would like to make with the platform. And man, I was really taken with the whole concept of I like what I do. And how many of y'all know that makes a difference? How many of y'all know that makes a difference? How many of you guys know it really makes a difference? I like what I do. I've been doing this for a while. I'm trying to learn how to get better at it. And in every testimony and every life change and every opportunity I get to sit with somebody and hear how they are engaging with the practical principles that's changing their lives around the world, it blesses my heart. I want to be known for having helped people discover purpose and maximize their potential. I want to be known for having challenged people not to give up. I want to be known for having kept the challenge of getting better with age in front of people. Okay, that's really what I want to be known for. I want to challenge people to become their best self, not to become a replica of Ricardo Miller. I want people to find themselves and like who they're becoming. As a matter of fact, Miss Linda, I believe that when a person finds their lane, they start to function at a level where there is no competition. There is no competition. Now, this week, I've been doing this study on the ugly truth. And most of these ugly truths are self-generated, meaning they're punching me in the face. These are realities as to what I'm working through. Okay, these are realities. And so today, the ugly truth that I want to give attention to is laziness and procrastination. Laziness and procrastination. What I've discovered is that you can be more gifted than everyone else in the room. You can actually have more resources than everyone in the room. You could be more connected than everyone in the room. You can have a lot going for you. But if you're lazy, oh man, if you're lazy, oh man, you could really find yourself never becoming the person that you were created to be. So, we wake up this morning on this beautiful 13th day of December, and you just got to say, Lord, help me. Lord, help me. How many of you will get that honest and say, God, help me? I found myself operating more like a lazy person. I found myself struggling with procrastination, and I keep putting off. And there are some people, Kim, there's a lot of us out here struggling. The struggle is real, but it doesn't have to stay that way. It doesn't have to stay. I feel the Lord is saying that the time has come for us to just outright realize. If you can't realize it, or if you can't own it, if you can't identify it, if you won't stick a pin in it and say, this is that devil I gotta beat, this is that demon I gotta deal with, this is the issue at the very core. And I believe if you can address that slothful spirit, and when I say a slothful spirit, I'm talking about the inability to get done what can be done in minutes. You find yourself doing it in days. We're talking about learning how to do what can be done in minutes, doing it in minutes, rather than finding itself being done in days. Putting off for tomorrow what can be done today, not addressing what can be done now, when the truth is, at our very core, we have created a habit that's been holding us back. I have been my worst enemy. I've held me back more than any other person on the planet. I don't have a finger to point when it comes to me not being all that I was created to be. I have self-examination. That is the main thing that I'm doing in this new season. Self-examination. Ricardo, why aren't you sitting on $1 million in your bank account? Ricardo Miller, why haven't you hit the best-selling book of the month or the year yet? Ricardo Miller, why aren't you trending? You're pretty good, but why aren't you where you should be? Why aren't you? And let me tell you something. You got to get honest, and you got to be very transparent with some trusted individuals where you say, listen, man, enough is enough. How many of you on this beautiful Wednesday morning can say enough is enough? Here's the deal. God's word makes it very clear that we are instructed to work hard and to put our best effort forward. Okay, the goal is to work hard and put our best effort forward. But working hard is best when you're in your lane, when you've discovered the place where you belong. The Bible, especially in the wisdom book of Proverbs, speaks often of the cause and effect, that relationship between hard work and rewards, as well as laziness and ruins. Okay, I wrote down a couple of scriptures that I thought I want to lean into, because the vast majority of people, if not all of the people who follow this platform, are Christians. They love the Lord. They believe in the Bible. They understand the principle of the book. And so Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 says this. It says, watch this. It tells us as Christians, we should work with all of our hearts as unto the Lord. Our work is probably one of the greatest testimonies of our faith. Okay, our work is one of the greatest testimonies of our faith. I believe this with my whole heart, Minister Carol Crockett, that laziness has no place in the character of a follower of Jesus. Let me say that again. Laziness has no place in the character of a follower of Jesus. If you're lazy, if you're a procrastinator, and you find yourself putting off for days what could be done in minutes, you got to just simply say, Lord, help me. Angela, there are sometimes you just got to say, Lord, help me. You know what I'm saying? Kim, you just got to say, Lord, help me. You got to realize that you have the potential to do great things, but there are some habits that you have formed, you have worked into your daily practice that have held you back. And oftentimes, here's the deal. It is right there in front of our face, but we don't want to call it as it is. I'm a little bit lazier. Laziness is real. How many of y'all know laziness is real? How many of y'all don't call out nobody, but how many of y'all know there are people who struggle with putting in the work? How many of y'all know there are people who struggle? It's not that they can't put in the work. It's not that they don't have the ability to put in the work. That I'm talking about, there is this struggle between laziness and procrastination. They're connected, actually. If I had enough time, I would break them down. But you got to know, hey, listen, I'm struggling. And here's the deal. I could have gotten more out of November, but I kept putting it off. I kept being slothful in business. Okay, I kept being slothful in business, and because I've been slothful in business, I have not grew, I have not developed, I have not become all that I am capable of becoming. Now, here's a major danger, Angela. Here's a major danger, Minister Carol. What happens is most people, they allow how impressed others are of them and their activity to be their governing principle for how they show up in the world. What do I mean by that, Mother Katie? What I mean is, as long as people say, boy, you doing it, Miller, you doing it. Well, the truth is, I could be doing it, but I could be doing it even better. How many of y'all get that? How many of y'all get that? You go to a family reunion, you went to Thanksgiving, and somebody saw your upgraded car, and they say, boy, you doing it. Somebody saw you started your LLC business, and they say, oh my God, you're doing it. They said they saw you launch your website. They say, oh, you're doing it. But the truth is, there was so much more you could have done, because at your very core, you knew you were a procrastinator. You knew that you're lazy. You knew that you kept putting it off. You kept putting it off. And you know that, watch this, y'all. You know that tomorrow is not promised, but yet you're slowful in business. Let's go ahead and see what the Bible has to say. We're going to work this text a little bit today. Proverbs, write this down. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4 says, lazy hands makes for poverty, but diligent hands brings wealth. Okay, Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4 say, lazy hands makes for poverty, but diligent hands brings wealth. Now, I don't know anybody who don't want to be wealthy. I don't know anybody who don't want to be secure. But I know everybody says, you know what? I don't want poverty. I don't want to be poor. Well, guess what? The book doesn't lie. I believe the word of God. And the word of God says lazy hands makes for poverty. So don't get caught up in the little compliment of, boy, Miller, you are always on the move. You're always on the move. Well, here's the deal. It's not about being always on the move. It's about getting what I'm supposed to get out of my seconds, my minutes, my hours. The question is, am I getting out of my days what I should get out of my days? Or am I patting myself on the back? Or am I over appreciating all of the cheers from people who ain't going nowhere? People who aren't doing anything. Be careful of allowing the cheers of people who aren't doing anything to get you so caught up and distracted that you think you got it going on. Listen, you just bought a car. That's nice. But guess what? There's so much more. You just bought a house. That's nice. There's so much more. Listen, man, you just launched a business. There's so much more. Yeah, you're doing more than the people you came up with. But stop looking at that. The question is, are you still struggling with becoming all that you're capable of being? There is more. Write that down for me. Let's all declare that this morning. There is more. Now, here's how you're going to get more. You're going to get more out of your days when you stop lying to yourself and allowing things that shouldn't have priority to have priority, and you start being diligent in your affairs. Listen, Choicey, here's what it says. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10. It says, whatever your hands find to do, do it with, watch this, all your might. Okay, Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10. Whatever your hands find to do. So understanding there is more. There is more. There's more I can get out of my seconds, my minutes, my hours. There is more I can get out of my days. There is more I can get out of a week. Listen, there are people who are talking 24 is going to be their year. You know, we hear that all the time at the end of the year. But the truth is, we still got more than 15 days. More than 15 days in this month, 16, 17 days or so. Here's what you could still do. Here's what you could still do. You could still launch a business before the end of the year. You can actually write a book before the end of the year. You can establish a website before the end of the year. You can launch a ministry before the end of the year. You could buy, come on, man, you can buy a car, buy a house. Listen, you could start an initiative. You can influence the world. You could influence the world. So this whole concept of I'm struggling, and I'm struggling with the fact that I'm lazy. That's the ugly truth. The ugly truth is you're not putting in the work. You're not putting in the work. If you look back at this year and you look back at the time that you've been given, look at all of us, 365 days. Everyone going into 2024 should stop lying by using these words. I don't have enough time. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Write that down. Post that somewhere today. I don't have enough time is a lie from the pit of hell. Coach Ricardo Miller said it. I don't have enough time is a lie from the pit of hell. Okay? You don't have a time issue. You have a management issue. You have a management issue. You have an interest issue. You have a focus issue. You have a number of other issues. What you don't have is you don't have a time issue. And so I want you to grab a hold of some of this. Watch it. Luke chapter 16, verse 10 says, whoever can be trusted with very little. How many of y'all know where I'm going with this? Luke chapter 16, verse 10 says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. There are some people who ain't going to the next level because they haven't managed the current level they're on. They have not been a good steward. And that's the part that I'm telling myself, Angela. I'm saying, Ricardo, how can you be a better steward? Now, listen, I'm helping a lot of people evolve. I have a client that's killing it. This dude is killing it. And whenever we get our time together, one of the things is I'm like, baffled. I'm totally blown away by the level of results this dude is getting. And he says, Coach, I'm telling you, bro, you need to raise your prices. You need to listen. You just need to jump on there and declare who you are because your stuff works. And here's why it works. This is what he told me. He said, it'll work if you work it. It'll work if you work it. Now, there are some people, Brittany, there are some people who start to work it and then they stop. Okay? They start to work it and then they stop. Now, here's the deal. You could have the principle that will elevate you to new levels and acquiring tremendous success. But if you keep starting and stopping and disengaging, and not putting in the effort like you're supposed to, everything needs to be a strategy. Write that down. Everything needs to be a strategy. You don't plant corn without a strategy. You don't dig a well without a strategy. You don't build a house without a strategy. You don't make money without a strategy. Listen, even taking a vacation is a strategy. Listen, you don't connect with friends without a strategy. The whole concept is being intentional and allowing yourself to know that this is a plan, this is a strategy. Where there is no vision, where there is no strategy, where there is no insight, capturing a bigger idea that will allow you to go further faster. The guy told me, he said, Miller, your stuff works. So he says, listen, I'm going to work it. And he said, when you're ready for me to do my documentary video on how you've helped me to become who I am today, and there's a number of people that's constantly coming to me and saying, I'm ready to testify. You've helped me. I want to come out of the shadow and come to the light and says, Miller, you've been helping me on the back end. And most people don't even know. I have more clients who aren't on the front end than I have more clients on the back end that's on the front end. People who are doing the work. People who are doing the work. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10, whatever your hands find to do, once you discover the principle, stick with it. Listen, write that down. Stick with it. If it is truth, the truth will set you free. But you can't dibble and dabble. You can't be all over the place. You got to find principles that work. When you identify the principle that work with money, work it until you make it. When you find the principle that works when it comes to managing your time, work it until you make it. When you find the principle that works through a teacher, an instructor, an influencer, a mentor, work it until you make it. Dibble dabbling will cause you to become like the norm, will cause you to be like everyone else. People who had the chance to be great, but not found themselves doing greatness or great things. I'm here today to challenge you. Okay? If laziness is your issue, you're going to have to do the work to break that. You're going to have to remind yourself, I don't have to stay here. The will of God is that I thrive. The will of God is for me to prosper. The will of God is for me to do well in life. That doesn't mean that dumb devil won't show his head every now and again. That doesn't mean I won't feel discouraged. That doesn't mean that I won't deal with bumps in the road. What it does mean is I am aware that I have a gift within me. I'm aware that my mere existence is an indication that God has a plan for my life. And I am not going to lose days, weeks, and months not putting in the work. Somebody need to declare little is much when God is in it. Learn how to put some work in every day. No day off. No day off. Somebody said, I need some days off. That's your mind telling you what the world has taught you. I'm here today to tell you, you don't need no day off. When your day off emerges, it's intentional and it's strategic. Sleep is intentional and strategic. Rest is intentional and strategic. It's not about days off. It's about being intentional and strategic. Somebody said, well, I need my vacation. I don't want to create a life I don't need a vacation from. I like my vacation. See, it's not taking days off. It's learning how to be so strategic that you can't tell the difference between the fact that when I'm in it or when I'm not, because it's intertwined. I'm resting intentionally. I'm also working intentionally. I am sleeping intentionally. But guess what? I am going hard intentionally. All of it is your responsibility. So when the Bible says he who is faithful with little, you got to ask yourself, how faithful am I? How faithful am I? How faithful am I? Am I faithful with little? You say, well, Miller, you know, they only paying me this amount. Are you faithful with it? Well, you know, the only thing I can do is sing. Are you faithful with it? Well, you know, I can cook, but I can't do anything else. Are you faithful? Well, I got this little small apartment and, you know, this ain't much. Are you faithful with it? Are you faithful with it? Are you a good steward? Do you take care of your stuff like you said, Lord, I can handle more? Because if you look at how I'm doing with what I've been given, somebody said, well, I'm so busy between my child, my marriage, my job, and me trying to go back to school, I don't have any time. That's a lie from the pit of hell. You still got time. Multiple streams of income demands you manage yourself a little bit different. Watch this. There are some people who actually are given the gifting and the ability to have what they call a conglomerate. So you're talking about multifaceted. In other words, you have a business, you're a minister, you are working for somebody, you're a spouse, you got parenting, and you're a partner with 2 or 3 initiatives, and you're serving on 2 or 3 boards. Somebody said, well, how do you do it all, Miller? How do you do it all? It's called, write this word down. It's called management. Write that word down. It's called management. Listen, when you're called to do a lot, you just have to manage a lot. You have to commit to managing a lot. Okay? And so decide, okay, I serve on these 2 boards. I have these 2 businesses. I'm still employed. I have my spouse. I have my wife. I have my children. I have this. Somebody said, well, I would lose my mind if I had all of that. That's because you haven't took the time to realize God would not give you what you can't manage. But you may have it, but not manage it. And management is your responsibility. Management is your responsibility. Who's responsible for managing your world? You are. And when you see there's a lot on your plate, you just got to ask yourself, okay, there's a lot on my plate, and I've been called to be a good steward over all that is on my plate. Hello, somebody. I am going to be faithful with all that's on my plate. But if you are not diligent in business, it's going to start to feel like too much. If you're not a good steward, I wrote this down years ago, and I said, if you do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, you will always have time to do what you're supposed to do. Did you hear that, Pastor Brother Claire? Listen, if you do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, you will always have time to do what you're supposed to do. The question is, are we doing what we're supposed to do when we're supposed to do it? I'm talking about when you're supposed to sit down and write out that budget, but you didn't. When you're supposed to sit down and talk with your child, but you didn't. When you're supposed to buy healthy, but you didn't. When you're supposed to go to that meeting, but you didn't. When you're supposed to send that email. When you're supposed to go to sleep. When you're supposed to work out. Come on. And a lot of people, what happens is we know what we're supposed to do, but we're not doing it. When we know we're not, we know what we're supposed to do, but we're not doing it. So I want to push this, and I want to push this. Listen, he who was faithful with little is faithful with much. You got to make up in your mind that it's all about management. I'm responsible for managing all that is on my plate. Get that in your spirit. As I close this out, listen to what Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4 says. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4 says, all hard works brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Okay? It says, all hard works brings a profit, but mere talk only leads to poverty. Pastor Braddock Clay, you can testify some 25 years ago, actually now, when Words at Work was birthed, the organization that God gave me, the name of the organization was called Words at Work, because even then I realized that this was not going to happen without me not just talking it, but doing it. Okay, it wasn't so much about how well I can talk it. The question is how well I can do it. And I want my life to reflect the message that I teach. I don't want to just say it. I want to be an example of it. And that's my goal every day. So I'm going to be diligent in business. So I have people who tell me, what, bro, I get tired watching you because you go so much and you're doing so much. I don't think I'm doing much because there is so much more. See, within me lies the potential that God has placed within me. And I'm responsible for stirring up the gift within me. Who's responsible? I am. Someone say that with me. I am responsible for storing up the gift that's within me. So what happens is, here's the deal here, Pastor Claire. Here's the deal, Angela Marks. If you're called to do a work in the earth through 10 different approaches, and your best friend only has been called to do a work in the earth through one approach, your friend is going to think you're doing too much. That's because you have been given 10 talents, or you've been given 5 talents, and they've been given 1. And so they're looking at you, but you always going and you're always doing, and what? How come I get tired of looking at you? Well, stop looking at me. Start looking at yourself. So all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Okay? Closing scripture. Here's what this says. Watch this. No matter how much a lazy person wants something, he will never get it. A hard worker will get everything he wants. Proverbs 13 and 4. Proverbs 13 and 4. We all have the power to control laziness because it is a state of mind. Get that in your spirit. We all have the power to control laziness because it is a state of mind. Choosing comfort over the minor inconveniences of efforts and hard work will not yield a life of success. You got to get that whole choosing comfort, ladies and gentlemen, choosing comfort. A lazy person longs to have but fails to receive. A lazy person longs to have but fail to receive. I'm responsible for how diligent I show up on a daily basis. I got some work to do. When you're raising your children, when you look at your kids, you say, I got some kids to raise. I got a home to build or a business to build. Listen, I got some networks. I got to leave my imprint in the sands of time. I want to be able to establish a work that will outlive me. I want to live with my legacy in mind, to say that one day I'm going to be gone and I would have given it all to humanity. I want to leave empty. I want to say it is finished. I don't want to procrastinate and cause myself to lose out on the chances that God has been giving me the opportunity to embark on. I don't want to be so lazy that the gift that was in me was profound and amazing and incredible, but the truth is it never came out. And how many of you can say you have watched people do talks like this on social media? You've actually watched people on TV. You've bought people's books. You've gone into people's businesses. You have literally traveled and you have seen where you were better than where you were, but yet they were doing more than you because you simply allowed yourself to be gifted, but not utilizing the gift within. And there are people who are less gifted than you that are crushing it. They're crushing it because they are choosing to be faithful with little. They're choosing to use what they got. And until you get up off your butt and tell yourself, listen, I'm going to work it until I make it. I'm not going to be lazy. I'm going to be diligent. I'm going to put in the work. And even if you have to start with a small checklist, and you tell yourself, every day I'm going to do 3 things that's going to move me forward. Every day I'm going to do 5 things that's going to move me forward. And those 5 things could be very small things, but they're things that needed to be done. And I'll tell you, it'll start to clean your life up for the better. God bless you guys. See you tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be another hard subject with dealing with the ugly truth this week.